I'm a big fan of 1950s and early 60s science fiction films. I just like the bold colors, the design, the imagined future, which is kind of naive and optimistic, and at this point, kind of nostalgic in a way too. And I also love some of the themes of these films. I'm talking about films like Forbidden Planet, This Island Earth, the original Invaders from Mars. But recently I came across a 1955 science fiction film I had never heard of before. And that's the topic for today's episode. This is the Kazdoy Closet. I'm Kazdoy. That's my closet, full of all the stuff that I love. And today, a 1950s science fiction film that got pretty bad reviews and was practically disowned by its famous producer. Is it really that bad? Let's check it out. The film I want to talk about today is Conquest of Space, 1955, about 90 minutes long, beautiful color. This is about there's a spaceship and a wheel hovering about 500 miles above the Earth. There's a crew on there, and they find out that their next destination is going to be the planet Mars. Byron Haskin was the director. He made some great film noirs like I Walk Alone and Too Late for Tears, but mostly he's known for his adventure and science fiction films, including what some people regard as the greatest alien invasion film ever made, and that's the original War of the Worlds. His producer on that film and on Conquest of Space was George Pal. George Pal had a background in animation and stop motion animation, and he was responsible for a lot of science fiction films from the 50s like Destination Moon and Conquest of Space, War of the Worlds, and one of my favorites from I think 1960, The Time Machine. He was not happy with the finished product of this film. For one reason, there were a lot of major script problems with the film, and then the studio eventually lost interest in it and stopped giving him money, so some of the special effects in here are not quite finished, not quite as polished as they should be. So for that fact, he was not very happy with Conquest of Space. The characters are basically all stereotypes. You have the square-jawed general, you have the Irish guy, you got the Japanese guy, you got the Italian guy, you got the Brooklyn guy. And they all have very strong accents and very strong dialects and are very one-dimensional. The Japanese guy does have a moment where he explains how his country is perceived and how he's trying to make up for what they did during World War II. The Brooklyn guy, that's another problem. He's supposed to be the comic relief. His name's Phil Foster. That's the actor's name. He was in a lot of films. He was in the TV show Laverne and Shirley. And he's constantly mugging. He's constantly overacting. And the problem is he's supposed to be comic relief, like I said, but he's just not very funny. And they keep going to him. He gets a lot of screen time. So he really sticks out like a sore thumb in this film. And it also seems like his character doesn't even want to be there. The other guys seem to be, they're in for this mission. They're on board. And he's kind of trying to get his way out of it, but then he gives in at the very end. So it's just kind of a weird touch they put in there. It doesn't work. The acting styles are pretty wooden, pretty straightforward. Ross Martin is in this, and he's a good actor. He was really good in Experiment in Terror, and he was also good in the TV series Wild Wild West. But in this one, he doesn't have much to do, kind of wasted. So simple characters, simple plot. Thematically, a couple things are touched on. The one character does say that they're going to outer space because resources are diminished on planet Earth, and so they have to go to other planets to replenish the resources. But that's kind of dropped right then and there. Another theme that's brought up is man's place in the universe. Now the general, who's supposed to be in charge, and he's like the mature, experienced guy, and this is a little bit of a spoiler alert, he starts to kind of crack up. And he starts walking around with a Bible and reading it and quoting passages. So right away you think, uh-oh, what's going on with this guy? And sure enough, he is cracking up, and he questions what they're doing out there. And then he does make one good point. He says, if we do land on another planet, are we going to be seen as explorers or invaders? Good question. Conquest of Space gets a lot right and a lot wrong. Let's start with the wrong. First of all, you got guys smoking on the spaceship and smoking on this wheel in space. I don't think that would work. You also have a lot of sound in space, pretty noisy. You got the rocket sound, you have these asteroids zipping by, and we know there's no sound in space, but a lot of science fiction films make that mistake, right? There's also a scene with a mess hall. Now, the guys that are going to Mars, they're kind of a special crew, so they're wearing these blue jumpsuits. Everybody else has got these tan jumpsuits, but they're all sitting together in the barrack-style benches and tables with all this food, giant turkeys and ham and everything laid out in this big feast on this spaceship, this wheel in space, and just none of it really makes sense at all. And then in one scene, they have to go from the spaceship to the wheel, so they just jump and float on over there. They're not wearing any kind of jetpacks or anything. In fact, they just say, just jump and float over. So how they got over there, I'm not sure. But it does get a lot of things right. One thing it gets right, most importantly, is that 1950s sci-fi look. The colors, the instrument panels with the switches and the blinking lights and the dials and all that stuff. And then a big part of it is this wheel. You can kind of see it here, but you can really see it right there. And once you see that wheel, you think, that's like 2001: A Space Odyssey. And I don't know if Kubrick saw this film before he made 2001. It's possible. I read up on it. I didn't see any evidence of that, but it sure is similar. And that's a very cool looking thing. And also another thing it gets right is sort of like the original Star Trek series. It has a very international crew, and it has the first astronaut of color ever seen on a movie screen. There's also a space funeral that does appear in one of the original Star Trek movies as well. The effects, even though some are not finished, are good for the most part. They're very striking. They use matte paintings, miniatures. You don't see any wires hanging down, anything like that. But some of it you can tell is not finished. It's like a little outline around some objects going through space. And it's obvious it's not blending in properly. So it's obvious it was kind of placed there afterwards, like superimposed. But you can get over that because it's just really cool to look at. Another thing they do right is the zero gravity scenes where they're floating around, or sometimes when they're floating inside the space station or inside the wheel. I don't know how they did that. Again, you don't see any wires. It looks pretty good. So because I like this genre so much and I like the look of this for all its problems, I'm going to still give it 3 rockets out of 5. Now, what's on this disc? This is an imprint disc. I've talked about them before. And so it has this very nice glossy slip cover. And it has different artwork on the disc. And it has this sturdy slipcover as well. It has some extras. It has 2 audio commentaries, neither of which I listened to, of course. It has 2 features. One is very good. It's about 30 minutes. It's about the director, Byron Haskin, all about his career with lots of film clips. Very extensive. Really enjoyed that. And then it has about a 10-minute extra that is a feature about going from the page to the screen. And that was okay. I thought that was okay. So where can you see Conquest of Space? Your best bet is probably to rent it. You can try your local library. You can always buy it, but like I say about these imprint discs, I think they're a little overpriced. And this one was a little bit hard to find, but you can probably still find it if you want to pay for it. So, Conquest of Space, it was a good time. I'm sure I forgot about a lot of 1950s and early 60s science fiction film classics. So if you want to mention your favorite, I'm looking at you, Fandroid. Go ahead and leave a comment or a suggestion down here. Feel free to leave a thumbs up. Don't leave a thumbs down. Subscribe would be great. Share this with your friends and neighbors. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.